Hey everybody, welcome to the Tuesday show.
Why'd you put it on just after I took a bite?
I didn't notice that that's what happened.
Oh, bummer.
I'm James Chen. How's everybody going?
I'm Ultra David. All right. So we're going to talk about a few things. Straight up on the front, you're sick or something.
Yeah.
So there's going to be a lot of
something going on. I don't know. I'm coughing. I've got this. My voice is all messed up. But although I did buy these in Amsterdam, so instead of Vic, it's Wick, because in German W is a V, right? So
I guess, but
Vic.
That's bizarre.
And it's Blau.
Yeah, I mean
Blau.
Blau makes sense, but why can't we actually change what the name is?
Yep. See, there you go.
Also, as I was putting on this sweater, my old Capitals sweater, I realized I haven't watched hockey at all this year. Is it like in the playoffs?
I think it is.
It turns out it is in the playoffs.
Yeah, because basketball's in the playoffs now too.
I found out that it's in the playoffs, and I looked it up. I looked up how the Ducks were doing, and apparently they're down 3-0 in their series to the Sharks, and they just lost the last game 8-1. Oh my God!
What seeding were they?
I think they were good. I don't know though. You're asking the wrong guy. That's for sure.
Sharks demolished them.
I guess.
There's more than one shark teeth in tournaments.
Ooh, wow. So as I was on the way here, I went to Trader Joe's to get a little snack for the night, a little piece of dinner. And I was really hoping that nobody would come up to me and say like, hey, how about those Capitals? I was like really hoping that I would have to be like, I don't know. 5 years ago, you knew all about it, but weird. Anyway, sports are dead to me apparently. It's a very strange life.
Yeah, it sucks.
You want to switch which one we're talking about here? We're going to talk first about us being in Kuwait, which was basically the last week. We didn't have a show last week because we were in transit to Kuwait. We're going to talk about that and Kuwait Battle Royale. We're going to talk about Falke in Street Fighter V. Mid-sentence there, I was about to say Falke because I really feel like that's how it should be pronounced.
That's what I thought too, yeah.
I really feel it's that, but I caught it and I said Falke.
Especially with the German part of it, right?
It's just, yes, it's clearly supposed to be Falke.
They should have spelled it W-A-L-K-E and it would have been Valka.
Oh, man. And then we're also going to talk about a bunch of results. There's a bunch of tournaments that have happened over the past couple of weeks that we will discuss. There was also a KOF patch, and then there was assorted other things. So, lots of stuff to talk about.
Yeah.
Let's begin, though, by talking about us being in Kuwait.
So, this is the second time I've been to Kuwait. Third time for you.
It is.
But it was really cool to go back there because in 2 years, it's actually... Kuwait itself hasn't changed a lot. Yeah. But a lot of the FGC, I felt like, it grew a little bit. I felt like the players, there's some really strong players out there. And we even got a bunch of players, from all sorts of different areas within the Middle Eastern area, including from Morocco, Northern Africa.
That's right, yeah.
So it was really cool to see that. And even the venue that, it was Kuwait Battle Royale as the tournament. But it was taking place at GX 2018.
Yeah, Games Expo.
Games Expo. And GX itself grew a lot between the 2 years. And I thought that was a really exciting kind of thing to see that kind of growth for their community.
It was very different than the first time I was there, which at this point was 4 years ago. It was, 3 times as big. It's a lot bigger. Yeah. A lot bigger. They said that over the course of the weekend, 1,000 or 1,500 people come through GX. Every tournament was bigger. Tekken had over 100 people, for example.
It was a Tekken World Tour event, too.
It was.
And in fact, 2 years ago we went, the fighting games were all in like this tiny little room. It almost looked like a classroom. And it was being streamed in the classroom. And then, the vendor area was the biggest area. But they were also separated from everybody else. This time it was all actually one venue. Yeah. And they even had a stage area where they had a bunch of panels and presentations and performances and stuff. That was super cool as well.
Yeah, just the layout was definitely bigger and sort of fitting for a bigger event. So from the general perspective, it was good to see how many more people are coming, just in general. But from a fighting game perspective, specifically, like I said, there were over 100 people for Tekken. And in talking with people from Kuwait, they said that there are new players, which is good. We're talking about countries that are not, for the most part, gigantic. Like Kuwait has 1.5 million locals, Kuwaitis, and then like 1 million more other people.
Right.
Saudi Arabia is a big country. It's got like 20 or 25 million, which is right next door. But then the others are like Qatar has like 300,000 Qataris, and Bahrain is like 1 million. Like they're not like giant countries.
Right.
So the numbers are not going to be, US FGC like numbers, but they're all a lot bigger. And like I said, I was talking with Kuwaitis. They feel that the scene has been getting bigger. I was talking with Tekken Master from Bahrain, who said that he's been helping to run online Injustice tournament series with people from all over the region, which he feels has gotten a lot bigger. Players from Qatar were mentioning how they feel like their scene is growing. Mm-hmm. So it's really cool to see that there's like significant improvement in how big the scenes are in that area.
Yeah, and it's cool too because I mean, even Yusuf, the guy who helps, one of the main guys who helps run the event, will admit that it's not the biggest games conference in the area. Yeah. Though it might be the biggest fighting game tournament of the area.
Yeah, it probably is actually. Yeah.
But what he manages to pull off for that, so. I was already like blown away. The first day I went there, I got to meet David Wise, right? I'm not super familiar with him. He's the guy who's done a bunch of music for a lot of old video games, probably most well known for DKC, although I did ask him if he wrote the rap and he said he did not.
He didn't write the Donkey Kong rap?
No, he did not write the Donkey Kong rap.
Okay.
But he did write like a lot of the, songs that are really well known and everything like that. But he was like, okay, so during my panel, I want to sign a bunch of stuff. And he's like, where do I get pens from? And then Yusuf was like, oh, Yoko Shimomura has a bunch of pens. We'll go borrow them from her. And I was like, wait, who did you say had pens?
Okay.
And then he was like, Yoko Shimomura, I'm like, yeah, the person who wrote Street Fighter 2, the soundtrack to Street Fighter 2. Yeah. It's like, yeah, she's here with Manami Matsume, the person who wrote Mega Man 1. And I was like, what? And so, like, I was already, like, really stoked to see
for sure.
those two. I got pictures with them, and even on the later days, we were all hanging out and having dinner together and everything like that. True. It was pretty crazy.
Yeah, that was awesome.
Yeah, so Yoko Shimomura, of course, not only wrote Street Fighter 2, but also wrote Kingdom Hearts and Final Fantasy 15. For me, it was just Street Fighter 2. Yeah. And Manami Matsume, I mean, honestly, like, I'm not even joking when I say that video game music didn't really become a thing. Like, oh, video game music. This is like legit until Mega Man 1. And that was her music there. Like, when I heard the Mega Man 1 music, especially the Bomb Man theme, I was just like this is like video game music is real, you know, and that was kind of started me on that path of being obsessed with video game music.
Okay.
So it meant a lot to see those guys, these people there. Yeah. It was crazy. But it wasn't even just them. I'm obsessed with Final Fantasy Record Keeper, the director of Final Fantasy Dissidia, who apparently also happens to be the director of Record Keeper and Theater Rhythm and, a bunch of other games that I played. Hazama-san was there as well. I got to hang out with him. I talked with him a lot during lunch and on Sunday. And we got to meet a lot, hang out with a lot of people, important people. It almost felt like I was like, what am I doing here,
That's funny. I don't know their names. The guys who do Vegeta and Goku.
Sean Schemmel and Christopher Sabat.
There you go.
They were there.
They were also there.
Yes.
And they were pretty cool. I talked to them briefly. We didn't hang out with them as much, but they were nice. The funniest thing that I learned about any of those composer type people was talking with David Wise about how he got started with Rare. Right? Were you there talking with him about that?
I'm not sure.
Okay, so here's the story. He happened to be working at a musical instrument company. Whatever, a store. They were like selling musical instruments or whatever. And so Rare people come in and they're like, hey, we need to buy some instruments. And so he was like, okay, well, let me show you some of the things that we're selling here. And so in order to show them off, he started to like tool around on the on the instruments, and they were like, okay, cool. Well, we'll take those instruments, and also, do you want to come write music for us? And that's literally how he got his start. Was just totally off the wall randomness. Happened to be working in this one location. Rare happened to come in.
He happened to, he said he's been writing music since he was 13. Right. So he was already a good musician.
But it's just another one of these. I feel like the more I meet other people, the more I boil down how they got successful to like, okay, there was a lot behind it, right? They don't play no role in their own stories, but the way that they got the thing was like just happened to be in the right spot. Oh, you know, if maybe his shift wasn't that day, it was the previous day.
Right.
Well, I'm not meeting him in Kuwait.
We don't have
25 years later.
Country music that sounds like that anymore. Yep, exactly.
Yeah.
I mean, honestly, it feels more like life is like that than
I really think
else,
so far it seems like that. It's hard to draw too many conclusions, but I thought that was very interesting. So anyway, it was really cool to hang out with everybody. So Kuwait is a Muslim country where the weekend is not Saturday, Sunday, it's Friday, Saturday. So the tournament was Thursday night, Friday night, Saturday night.
Right.
And also they don't, since it can get so hot there's a tradition of basically nobody does anything between 2 and 5.
Right.
Basically, the country shuts down. Like stores aren't open.
It's like siesta almost, kind of like in Spain countries.
Exactly.
Right? So yeah.
It's basically a siesta. So the tournament started after 5 each day, 6 or so. I think that it's always interesting to go see other countries, and we've been able to do this quite a bit lately, especially over the last year or so. We've gone to Paris and Kuwait again and Japan. Right. And we're going to go to the Dominican Republic.
That's right.
Later this month.
Yeah.
Yeah. But as we were talking about this while we were out there, it feels like everywhere you go, the geek culture is very similar. All sorts of other stuff is different. Like in Kuwait, obviously the political and economic situations are very different.
Right.
Social stuff is quite different. There's a lot of differences. But when it comes down to like you hanging out with somebody and talking about video games or anime or whatever it is,
they're all the same.
Everybody really feels the same. Like everybody's just a nerd.
Yeah,
and like
exactly.
And like similar personalities even. It's been very interesting to travel around and meet people like that.
It's really cool to find out this kind of thing. And, and honestly, it is one of the reasons why Yusuf flies a lot of us out there.
Yeah.
Because honestly, you go there and what are you expecting from Kuwait, right? It's like, I remember the first time you went and we came back and we talked about it. I was always joking that before I saw Justin's pictures, I thought it was all deserts and camels in Kuwait and stuff like that. But even the guy who was taking me to the airport to go to Kuwait, he was like, where are you going? I was like, I'm going to Kuwait. He's like, oh, interesting. And he wasn't being like racially insensitive, but the questions that he were asking, you could tell what he had in mind of Kuwait is not what Kuwait is like.
Yeah. And
Kuwait actually turns out just to be very much, I mean, it's a modern city. It is a modern city. And it's more like every place else than you would expect, right? In fact, when you're driving around and there's the Carl's Jr., there's the McDonald's, there's the Applebee's, there's the, I mean, Jesus, they had, the two cosplayers who went there, Tally and Vanessa, like they were super happy to go get Shake Shack and Cheesecake Factory and everything like that.
You would go to Kuwait. I mean, they did that. Cheesecake Factory in Kuwait. Like, come on.
Yeah, it's really cool. It's really cool. So,
I mean, it is very different in a lot of ways. So it really matters to them that they have these foreign and American brands. For example, like James was talking about these fast food places. We're driving around and, Yusuf, our host, he knows exactly when McDonald's came to Kuwait. And he knows exactly this is the first Applebee's.
This is the first McDonald's in the Middle East.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. So there's like a value on foreign and I think especially American stuff that feels weird to us, but we're coming from basically the cultural hegemon over the last most of the 100 years, so it's just like a really different situation, but very illuminating to see. I don't want to rehabilitate it completely. I mean, there's definitely some serious labor issues in the country. I think more than anything else.
I mean, honestly, some of the stuff makes me feel very uncomfortable. Right? I mean, a lot of their labor comes from Asian countries, in which they essentially kidnap people, right? And kind of take away their visas or something?
Kuwait, from what I've read, Kuwait doesn't do that side of it quite as wildly as Qatar, apparently. From what I've read is the wildest in that. But it's true that they take people's visas once they enter, and obviously that can lead to a lot of abuse. So that side of it I think is really tough. But it's really like Yusuf and his family are definitely on the more liberal side of things. Like we didn't meet his mom again, but his mom is a well-known international human rights lawyer. So it's definitely not the same situation that many other families have.
But I mean, it's interesting because like as an Asian person, as I'm walking around, I always see that everybody who works in all the restaurants and all the stores, all the service people are all Asian people.
Yeah.
And in places where the service people aren't the Asian people, sometimes I also, when I like go up to buy things and stuff, like, I don't know, like I don't feel like they treat me as nicely. I'm not sure if I'm just making it up or something, but like when I went to go get those cough drops and everything like that, like the guy was just like barely like acknowledging me as I was asking him questions and stuff. And I don't know if that's kind of what came with it or something. I'm not sure, but you know, there's definitely some awkwardness and uncomfort for me there. So
we also met a woman who's a game developer from Saudi Arabia, which was fascinating. She was talking about how she's a game developer who's working with a bigger company in Saudi Arabia, but she's also starting a business and making a game with her little brother. And she's like our age, more or less, and her little brother's like 15. Right. But the law in Saudi Arabia is that if there's a male in a company, there needs to be another male who's his manager.
Right.
That is to say, any guy in a company cannot legally cannot be managed by a woman. Right. Including if it's his sister, apparently.
Her sister, right?
Right. So.
His sister. Okay. Yeah. Gotcha.
So this little 15-year-old kid, is basically requiring. He's not, but the law requires that his sister hire a man to manage him, even though she's his older sister by 25 years. Right.
Exactly.
So it's super crazy.
And in fact, some companies then just don't hire men, right? So there's actually companies that are just pure women. Yeah. So they don't have to deal with that issue at all.
Exactly. She was railing about it. You know, it makes her obviously really mad, pissed. But that was. I mean, I'm sorry to hear that. That's obviously awful. But it's just it's interesting to find out. Like that's like the kind of thing that is like terrible, but educational. Right. Right. So, dang.
And what's really interesting.
They're talking about like modern video games. You know what I mean? Like it's like you think of that like worldview as being in the past. Right. You know, it's like that's not how it is anymore. But we're talking about like modern video games. You know.
What's weird about it too is that, you know, I wonder how much longer it can last in Kuwait in particular, because even Yusuf talked about this a lot, that Kuwait is the most liberal of all the Middle Eastern countries. Yeah,
the GCC countries. Right. To say the Gulf, the sort of Persian Arabian Gulf.
Right. And, you know, you can see that a lot. There's definitely a lot of liberal beliefs and stuff out there, but like there are a lot of women who are just like they don't dress up, they don't cover up, you know, they dress how they want to, and you know, it's just that you know, from where I stand, like you see these kind of liberal situations, and the more liberal you are, like you're not going to put up with things as long. So I just wonder if there's like something's going to change.
Yeah.
Excuse me.
Woo! Oh! Just as you turned the thing back.
God damn it. And the doctor said that I could see him at 4 p.m. today. Like, I called and they're like, yeah, you can come in at 4:40 today. And then they called me back and they're like, sorry, we messed up. You can't come in until Thursday. So I can't. I'm not even going to be able to get this checked out until 2 days from now. So
that sucks.
I even bought the small bottle of Robitussin just to make sure that I didn't have to. You know, I didn't think I was going to have to drink the whole thing, but if I drink this right now, that's the end of it. This is the last bottle.
Well, you can get some more tonight.
After the show, I'm going to have to run out and get some more Robitussin.
Yeah. Anyway, it's definitely a modern city. We went up the world's tallest concrete-only building, apparently. Wow, that's going to take forever, dude.
It's not enough in here.
Oh, my God.
There's not enough in here. Jesus. It's definitely got to be like some sort of bronchitis or some crazy.
You got something.
Like
There's no doubt about that.
Well, that was supposed to be 20 milliliters, but I think I just drank like 5 milliliters. So that is definitely not going to help.
Yeah, it'll help a little bit. Anyway, thanks for flying us out there again. That was cool. Appreciate it.
Mm-hmm. I would love to go back. You know, it's a lot of fun out there, actually. And I like meeting a lot of the players out there. And, you know, when we get to the actual results and everything like that of the event, you know, some of those players out there were really strong players. And it was just really exciting to see. And, you know, I'd love to see them travel more and be able to get out.
I'm definitely with you on that.
Places.
As sort of a final point on Kuwait, you know, at least the first time that I was asked to go out there, I kind of was torn about it. Not because I was worried about violence or whatever.
Right.
But because there are things there that I like disagree with, politically speaking.
Right.
I mean, they have a parliament and stuff. It's not that side, but really more like how they treat the workers.
Dude, you should tell people what, after you're done with this, you should tell people what like Tekken Master
I definitely
said.
will.
Yeah.
But I think in the end that it's more important to like experience other things and be honest about them when I come back. So I'd like to like help people realize what's going on, both on the very positive sides. It's a nice big city, right? We were talking about it's liberal comparatively speaking.
Right.
There's positives for sure, but then also be honest about the negatives. So I don't know. That's my thought about it. And then as far as what Tekken Master said, we were chatting about whether he would ever move to the U.S. and he said no. The U.S. is way too violent.
Too dangerous.
It's too dangerous in the United States. Which I just thought like flipped it on its head, at least as far as what the stereotypes are, because people stereotype that whole region as being very violent.
Right.
There are some super violent spots in the larger Middle East, obviously, but when it comes to the Gulf region at this point, those countries at least are not violent. They have way less rates of problems than we do. But I just thought that was like a really interesting take on it.
He said, like, you know, cops kill everybody. Everyone owns a gun. People get shot all the time.
Police can murder whoever they want. He was talking about how cars always get broken into. And, you know, it's not...
You respond by going...
More or less. I mean, it's not entirely accurate, obviously, but the main thing I disagreed with him is that he was saying... I was complaining to him about the fact that in Kuwait, every toilet is wet. You know what I'm talking about? They're all wet. So there's a like handheld bidet. It's like a hose with a little like, you know, squirt gun hose that I guess you like clean your butt with afterward, right? But people,
it's at every toilet.
Every toilet has this. But for whatever reason, people don't then like, they're like spraying themselves, I guess, and it just goes everywhere. So the entire toilet is wet. The seat is horrible. It's gross. So I was complaining to him about this, and he was like, that's way less gross than just using toilet paper and not a bidet at all. You know, I don't agree with that, but I understand the position.
Right.
I thought that was horrible, though.
So, I mean, honestly, out of everybody, Japan has it right the most, right? That the hose is built into the toilet, and it only sprays into the toilet, so Japan does it right.
I think they're probably the best.
That's the right.
They probably have the best butt care.
Yeah.
Yeah, dude, that's what I'm talking about. It's not like it's clean water. Like, that water's been in somebody's butt. It has. Sorry, James. Anyway, that happened.
Yeah.
What a discussion indeed.
Yeah.
All right. Anything else to say about Kuwait?
Yeah, I mean, just again to emphasize though that I thought Kuwait Battle Royale and the GamesCon itself really super cool. And if you do have a chance to go, I highly recommend it. It's really really cool. And like I said, the culture is pretty much the same. You know what I mean? Yeah. Outside of the fact that, you know, what's interesting is because they're all really into anime, right?
For sure.
So they love anime. We've been to Japan now recently. We know what anime often involves. And a lot of that is missing in Kuwait.
What?
Like, you don't have any of the scantily clad figures.
Oh, do you not? I didn't pay attention.
Yeah, I was actually, because I was talking to to Tally and Vanessa about that, you know, because they were selling a bunch of posters and they weren't sure if they had to censor some of their own posters that they were trying to sell. And I was like, that's interesting. I'm going to go check on the booths and see if anyone's selling any of the figures or anything like that. And sure enough, there was none. I couldn't find any of like Nami's from One Piece, you know, in bikinis and stuff like that. Super popular character to be in bikinis, you know, and I didn't see any of them over there. They had like all the other characters, but not them.
Everybody's got their own take on things, I guess.
Yeah, it's really interesting.
The Kuwaitis are super nice people, very, very welcoming, and had a really good time with them again.
Yeah, I had a lot of fun there. So definitely, if you can go, I would recommend it in a future year. So there you go.
Yeah, but watch out for butt water.
Watch out for butt water. Jesus.
You filthy Americans not using bidets at all, just walking around with who knows what's going on down there. Only paper. Who knows? You can't get clean with only paper.
It's kind of gross.
That was their position.
Yeah.
I'm not sure it's inaccurate, but. All right, let's move on then.
Sure. Yeah, we'll get to the results of the tournament in the results section.
You got it, buddy.